You know the feeling of walking into a workspace where the energy is heavy, people are quiet, the air feels thick, and everyone is focused strictly on the clock. Contrast that with an office where the atmosphere is light, ideas are bouncing around, and people are genuinely engaged. That atmosphere is what we call organizational climate. It acts as a tangible environmental force, dictating whether your best people will put down roots and grow, or start looking for the nearest exit. When an environment goes sour, the immediate instinct is to look straight up the ladder. We tend to assign all the credit, or all the blame, for this weather to the single person sitting in the CEO's chair. But that assumption creates a confusing scenario. You can have a senior leader who is brilliant and explicitly focused on building a great culture, yet the frontline workers are still completely miserable. The standard top-down theory of workplace culture overlooks the multiple layers of management operating between the executive suite and the ground floor. This gap in understanding drains a team's energy. When new hires arrive eager to contribute, the reality of their immediate surroundings quickly extinguishes that initial motivation. If the organizational weather remains hostile despite a visionary leader, the disconnect is usually found in how the organization is built. Without looking deeper than the CEO, the company will continue to lose its best people. Take a look at this standard corporate hierarchy diagram. The sheer structural distance between the solitary executive node at the peak and the wide base of frontline teams is immense. As you can see, when these middle layers light up, the workplace climate doesn't flow from a single source. It emerges as the collective outcome of the daily choices made by every leader within the system. Now watch what happens when we introduce an unchecked toxic manager into one of those middle tiers. This mid-level leader operates beneath the executive's radar and completely blocks that top-level vision from reaching the people directly below them. A military battalion commander once described this perfectly. They noted that a unit can have the smartest, most tactically sharp commander in its history, but if that commander ignores a toxic subordinate who is making the troops miserable, the troops won't care about the commander's brilliance. They will direct the exact same anger and derision they feel for that toxic manager straight up to the commander who failed to step in. An inspiring executive is effectively neutralized if they allow these structural roadblocks to fester. Their vision gets trapped at the top, leaving the rest of the organization stranded in a toxic environment. This reality shifts the burden of leadership away from a lone executive. It places the responsibility as cultivating the environment squarely on the shoulders of every manager, director, and team lead. In practice, this means dealing with friction barriers. These are the specific toxic behaviors, policies, and individuals that actively disrupt a team's ability to do their work. A leader's primary duty is to identify and remove these barriers to ensure their team has a clear path to success. Allowing a toxic individual to remain in place signals to the rest of the team that their well-being is not a priority. This choice represents a failure of leadership duty that effectively dissolves the trust of the frontline workers. Maintaining a healthy climate requires aggressive maintenance. It takes daily vigilance and the courage to confront toxicity the moment it appears, regardless of where it comes from. So, if clearing out friction is the main objective, how do leaders actually locate these hidden roadblocks buried within massive, complex corporate systems? You measure the health of your climate by looking at psychological safety. Specifically, you evaluate whether true freedom of speech exists across the organization. This illustrates freedom in practice. A team member can bypass standard reporting structures and bring a problem straight to the top. We call this the private to general test. An entry-level employee flags a critical issue to a senior executive without fear of reprisal from middle managers. You know you've built a foundation of trust when a junior team member feels perfectly safe walking into your office and saying, "We have a real problem down here, and I don't know who else to talk to." Companies that foster this level of approachability catch and solve their problems early. Companies that demand rigid adherence to the chain of command end up hiding their issues until they explode into public view. A thriving organizational climate doesn't happen by accident. It is the direct result of demanding collective responsibility from every leader, guaranteeing the lowest-ranking voice can always safely reach the highest-ranking ear.